Yesterday's news seemed to just be the opening salvo, but reports today say that Tottenham are in advanced talks for their top forward target. Meanwhile, Man United have not only sacked 3/4 of their office staff, but they're also looking to get rid of 3/4 of their playing staff, seemingly too. And I'll also be giving you my thoughts on reports today that Gareth Southgate is going to change his system before Saturday's European Championships quarterfinal against Switzerland. All this and more on today's episode. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support so far for my daily videos. Please do give this video a like. It really helps me. Also, press subscribe. I want to get as many subscribers as I possibly can, getting close to that 10,000 mark now. Please do press subscribe and spread the word about these daily videos in which I kind of concentrate during the summer on the transfer market, but also bring you news of managerial stuff and other football news as we wait for pre-season to start and finally watching our clubs, my club, my beloved Spurs, get back into and in towards the Premier League season. Anyway, let's get on with it. As I mentioned in that intro, Tottenham are apparently now in advanced talks with Rennes for Desire Doue, our top forward target. If you haven't seen yesterday's video where I talk in more depth about him, really exciting attacking talent. Loves to drop the shoulder, loves to beat a man, sometimes taking on two men at a time. And in terms of Ange Postecoglou's style of play, it's really what we've been crying out for. A player who can do something a little bit different. A player where the opposition are thinking about having to double up and maybe even treble up on him because they're so worried, and that can leave more space for our other players on the pitch. Let me know in the comments what you think of Desire Doue. He looks incredibly exciting to me, and again, what I love about this new Spurs kind of recruitment policy is that it seems like a lot of the time we only really hear the leaks and the kind of guaranteed leaks of advanced talks when it's quite far down the line. So I'm impressed with Johan Langer on that, and I'm impressed with obviously Ange Postecoglou and the signing off kind of system that they have, where they seem to be going for the right kind of hungry young players that suit Ange's system. Meanwhile, Spurs apparently are continuing to monitor Nico Williams before a potential summer move. As we've talked about a few times, he has a £49 million release clause in his Athletic Bilbao contract. I went a little bit Spanish there, a little bit of Freudian slip. I think, as you'll all have seen in the Euros and from his play for Athletic Bilbao, an incredible talent, an exciting player. But all the talk about Nico Williams is, yes, it is a low release clause, but he knows his potential and he is apparently looking for huge, astronomical wages. And I fear that will rule Tottenham out. But we are continuing to monitor him, apparently. And I'm sure if they could get a deal done at a wage that they were happy with, they'd love to get him through the door. But I think there'll be kind of bigger clubs more willing to pay huge wages sniffing about. Some good news for Spurs. It's a bit of a slow news day, to be honest, probably because it's a general election in England. Make sure you go and vote. I've just gone and voted. But there is some news coming out just last night about Christian Romero, our vice captain. There was a lot of talk earlier last season, that he may get picked for the Argentinian Olympic side this summer, and obviously that was very nerve-wracking because that would take him into the Premier League season. You know, with Romero, he loves playing for Argentina. He loves, he won the World Cup with them. He's like Messi's best mate. All the teams, the players in Argentina's national team say what an absolutely kind of incredible stalwart of the team he is. So we were all worried that he'd be picked for the Argentinian national Olympic side, but he hasn't been. And that is a huge relief to Spurs fans. And in other news, the ex-Argentinian centre-back Javier Mascherano was asked for his thoughts on Christian Romero and his importance to Argentina. And he said the following, he said, QT Romero is among the best centre-backs in the world, if he's not already. We don't know what his ceiling is. He has demonstrated it through the entire season at Tottenham. He has been a cornerstone player for the team, incredibly important, and the Tottenham coach has repeatedly praised him in big matches. I believe he is at an incredible level, a player with impressive abilities who continues to grow and improve. The level he is reaching is impressive. Now, for anyone a little younger, Javier Mascherano was actually an incredible, originally defensive midfielder who played for Argentina and played for some of the biggest clubs in Europe, but also actually came to England playing for West Ham in a double deal with Carlos Tevez that ended up being illegal. But he went on to play for Liverpool, and actually then he went to Barcelona and kind of went backwards as a centre-half in that kind of tiki-taka football at Barcelona. So he has played centre-back. He knows centre-backs. And those words about Christian Romero, lovely to hear it, isn't it? How important do you think Christian Romero is to Tottenham Hotspur? There was some talk a month or two ago that Real Madrid were going to bid big for him. I got a lot of traction in my video about it. I think what Real Madrid are kind of like breadcrumbing a little bit, like just little leaks here so that maybe in a year's time or 2 years' time, they're going to try and take Romero. But can we get the most out of him before that? Can we win trophies with Christian Romero leading us from the back? I personally think we can. I think he's vital to us. I love his mentality, and I hope that mentality kind of spreads amongst more of the Tottenham Hotspur team as Ange's project moves forward. Very impressed with those words from Javier Mascherano, and it'll give Christian Romero even more confidence. He's obviously a confident player anyway. He loves kind of biting into tackles. He's no-nonsense defender. So beautiful with the ball at his feet as well. Those balls he plays between the lines into Tottenham's midfield and into the forwards, we really struggle when we've not got him on the pitch with that. And Mascherano knows ball, so really good to hear that. Meanwhile, some talk about another potential outgoing from Tottenham Hotspur, Sergio Reguilon, who really in the last few years has completely lost his, I don't know, almost like lost his career a little bit. He was such a talent when he came from Real Madrid as part of that Gareth Bale move. But just after his kind of first 18 months, he started not getting picked for the side and just seemed to lose his way. And obviously last season he spent 6 months on loan at Manchester United and then 6 months on loan at Brentford. I didn't expect him to play at Manchester United at all, but he got far more game time than I was expecting. And then at Brentford, he did pretty well as well. He was covering there for Rico Henry. I think we might be able to get a bit of money in for Reguilon, and he's being linked now with West Ham under Julian Lopetegui, and apparently Juventus have also got him on their list. Of course, Reguilon is more than happy to start a new chapter in his career. I think if Tottenham can get, again, I've said this all summer about a lot of these outgoings, if we can get anywhere near 10 million, we got 10 million for Joe Rodon, we should be able to get 10 million pounds for Sergio Reguilon. He is a Spanish international, and in the right system, for the right team, he can be a real talent again. I think he's best suited as a left wing back rather than a left back in a four. I don't think he's kind of defensively minded enough for that. But maybe West Ham can take him. Maybe Juventus. Let's try and get maybe £10 million or so for him. Actually, if it's West Ham, you'd expect to get a bit more money because of the English club to English club tax. So let's see what happens there. But I think we'll all happily wave goodbye to Reguilon, say thank you for your service, but go and start a new chapter in your career. Meanwhile, I talked a couple of days ago about Spurs still being interested in Kyle Walker-Peters because he ticks a lot of boxes. He's a club-trained player. He's a homegrown player. He can play both full-backs. Meanwhile, though, Brighton have now inquired about Kyle Walker-Peters. Obviously, talks earlier this week as well that West Ham were looking at him as well. But Tottenham are still monitoring that situation, according to Fabrizio Romano. So I wonder if whether, similarly to the Archie Gray situation, they will wait until another club make their move, see what that deal is at financially, and then make a decision as to whether that is a deal they want to do. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Kyle Walker-Peters is good enough to play in the first team at Tottenham as a right back or a left back if Porro or Desire Doue are not available? Obviously, Archie Gray can fill in at right back. He played right back a lot for Leeds last season. And actually, I saw a great video about Archie Gray just this morning. Check it out. Go and find it on TikTok or Instagram Reels. It's where at the kind of Footballer of the Year awards for the Championship, for the Football League, a lot of players were asked on camera, who do you think the best player in the Championship is? And about 6 or 7 of them said Archie Gray. And they said that he can do things on the ball that I haven't seen done. So that's very exciting. But let me know what you think about Kyle Walker-Peters. No official bids so far, but I do wonder again, is this one that maybe Spurs are going to wait to see what the bid is from another club and then try and gazump them? Genoa apparently remain interested in Jed Spence. Obviously, Tottenham are looking for, I think, about £7 or £8 million. They want to get him a bit cheaper. This is a rumour that won't go away. However, the Genoa chairman just said, there's no rush for us. There's still about 55 days left of the transfer window. So they're basically trying to levy Daniel Levy. Meanwhile, Tottenham are expected to be offering other clubs the chance to sign Jed Spence. Sad for Jed Spence. Never worked out for him. And I think maybe a little bit of an attitude issue has become something that Ange Postecoglou is not willing to deal with. Over to some other news for some other transfer-based stuff for other clubs, but this is relevant to Spurs. Paul Mitchell. Now, if you remember Paul Mitchell, he was our sporting director who came over from Southampton. Mauricio Pochettino was working with him at Southampton, then Poch came over and we got Paul Mitchell in. And he was very young back then as a sporting director, but he did an okay job at Spurs. The thing that I remember about Paul Mitchell is just a rumour, but I heard a rumour that he ended up losing his job at Spurs because Daniel Levy had heard some reports that maybe some of the French signings that we made under Paul Mitchell, for instance, Clinton and G and George Kevin and Kudu, were maybe signings that were kind of potentially helping Paul Mitchell financially as well. And as was proven with those two signings, just were not good enough to make the level in the Premier League for Spurs. And they didn't really go on to do much afterwards either. Anyway, that's just what I heard. Paul Mitchell did an okay job. He made some half-decent signings when he was at Spurs, but he did lose his job after a couple of years. However, he has just been appointed as Newcastle United's new sporting director. He replaces Dan Ashworth, who, of course, has now gone to Manchester United. That deal has finally been done. He was put on gardening leave by Newcastle, but that has been announced that Dan Ashworth is now the Man United sporting director. And in fact, he announced today for Manchester United that Erik ten Hag has signed a new contract at Manchester United until 2026. Fans, Spurs fans and other fans of clubs, how long do you think Erik ten Hag will be at Manchester United? So they've given him a 2-year contract. But I don't think, unless he has a great start to this season, I don't think he'll make it past Christmas. Let me know what you think. Staying at Old Trafford, apparently, according to the Mirror, they would accept a sizable offer for Bruno Fernandes this summer. Also, I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, they're looking to offload so many of their squad. Apparently, those names include Casemiro, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Christian Eriksen, Antony, Jadon Sancho, and Mason Greenwood, with the dream scenario for United being able to sell all of them to raise in the region of £200 million, giving them a transfer budget of £250 million, because apparently, due to their the amount they've spent over the last few years, they only have about £50 million to spend. Also, according to Sky Sports, they will listen to offers for Marcus Rashford, and they want £80 million for him, but maybe they'd accept £60 million. Really fascinating how a club can be mismanaged so massively in such a short space of time, where they're looking to offload all of those players. Actually, not dissimilar to Spurs. However, the difference being all of those players brought in on absolutely huge wages for Manchester United. Whereas in terms of Spurs and huge wage signings, maybe you're only looking at Ndombele and Lo Celso. But in terms of those players, are there any that you would want Big Ange Postecoglou to look at? Obviously, starting with Rashford, but Casemiro, obviously not. Lindelof, no. Maguire, no. I've talked a little bit about maybe it would be kind of a clever move to bring in Eriksen as a backup to Maddison as a number 10. I'd love to see that, but maybe it's my heart ruling my head because he's one of my favourite players. Antony, no. What about Jadon Sancho? Should Spurs be looking at Jadon Sancho? He's on huge wages, so it seems unlikely. But let me know what your thoughts are on that. Meanwhile, I mentioned at the top that Man United making quarter of its workforce redundant. 250 employees are leaving. Unbelievable. Like, what a situation at that club. So Jim Ratcliffe has gone in and just ripped it out from the inside. And a lot of unhappy people at Old Trafford. Anyway, moving across Manchester, Man City, Joshua Kimmich apparently is hell-bent on joining Pep Guardiola at Man City this summer. Big news from Man City still. Ederson, who I think is one of the two best goalkeepers, not only in the Premier League, but maybe one of the 2 or 3 best goalkeepers in the world. He is in talks with Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. Apparently, they've made him a contract offer of €60 million over 2 years. I think that'll be a big loss to Man City. They've signed Stefan Ortega up as their he's been their reserve keeper, but if Ederson goes, he'll be their first keeper. And I have to say, and it's bad news as a Spurs fan, because I think Arsenal will be there or thereabouts next season, that could make the difference of a point or two for sure. We can only hope that Ange Postecoglou gets us playing in that kind of form that we were in the first 10 games of last season. Maybe we can elongate that and make a push for it, because otherwise I fear Arsenal will be there or thereabouts to win the Premier League next season. Meanwhile, 3 Girona board members have apparently stepped down so that Girona and Man City can both play in the Champions League next season. That is because they are both owned by the City Group, and you're not allowed to play in the same European competition as a sister club. This seems a little bit dodgy, to be honest, because it says that the 3 board members have been replaced by solicitors from a Cheltenham-based law firm. CFG, that's the City Football Group, will also reduce its 47% shareholding to under 30%, putting those shares into a blind trust. I mean, let me know what you guys think. It brings Chelsea to mind to me, just all this kind of round the back dealing that these football clubs are able to do with their accountants now to try and get round these rules. But, nothing surprises me. Meanwhile, over at Arsenal, Ricardo Calafiori and Arsenal getting closer and closer. This is one that looks like Spurs have not decided to go for. Maybe they've heard from Calafiori that he's more interested in going to Arsenal, where They're in the Champions League. Apparently, despite movements from several clubs, Arsenal have presented what Di Marzio have described as a more intriguing project and offer for Bologna and the player. So looks like Calafiori is going to go to Arsenal to boost their centre-half ranks. That is a good signing for them. However, this is just a rumour in the mirror, but apparently Real Madrid are interested in William Saliba. Are they doing a similar thing with Arsenal and Saliba that they've been doing with Romero? Trying to tap him up, trying to leak it softly, trying to make it happen. And are Arsenal potentially bringing in Calafiori to replace William Saliba, who I have to say, it's difficult to say, but he is an excellent centre-back. Really brilliant. Over to Chelsea, they're keen on Nottingham Forest defender Murillo, but apparently Nottingham Forest wants £60 million for him and they're not willing to pay that. Very weird to hear Chelsea not willing to pay an amount of money, but they're spending money so much elsewhere that maybe it's starting to run out. Over to West Ham, Flamengo have approached them to sign Lucas Paquetá on loan. Of course, Paquetá in big trouble at the moment for accusations of him having bet on his own team's games. Negotiations apparently ongoing on the club side. The players' camp have also been informed of Flamengo's desire to sign Paquetá. Let's see what happens with that one. It would be a loss to West Ham, that's for sure. Man Utd has signed his 5-year contract as an Everton player, €18.5 million plus €1.5 million add-ons from Olympique Marseille. João Palhinha has finally moved to Bayern Munich. That one's been in the offing since January. Deal approved on a deal around on a fee of around €50 million plus €5 million add-ons, and he'll be at Bayern until 2028. Good signing for Bayern. They are reacting hard to the difficult season they had last year, finishing third behind Bayer Leverkusen and Stuttgart. Harry Kane having an unbelievable season for them, but again winning no trophies, and they are buying big. Palhinha, Michael Olise to mention just two. Meanwhile, Jadon Philogene talked earlier this week, maybe last week, about Spurs being interested in him, but Barcelona have been in for him, but apparently that deal looks complicated and unlikely because he is preferring a Premier League move. At the moment, it looks like 3 clubs are interested in him: Crystal Palace, Ipswich Town and Everton. Spurs not biting at the moment. Maybe that's because they're looking at Desire Doue and still kind of monitoring, as I said earlier, Nico Williams. Finally, so Switzerland, Saturday, 5 p.m, England quarterfinal. England have flattered to deceive in this tournament so far. And all the talk coming out of training this week is that Gareth Southgate is going to revert back to what worked for him in his early England days, and that is a 3-5-2/5-3-2 with Ezri Konsa of Aston Villa rumoured to come in as a third centre-half alongside John Stones and Kyle Walker. Now, I think, although on paper it seems like a defensive move, which you wouldn't be surprised at with the way that Gareth Southgate has his team playing at the moment, but I think it's a good move, and I'll tell you why. I think Kyle Walker had a terrible Euros so far. I think too much has been expected of him at right back in terms of an attacking capacity, and he hasn't been able to do it. He hasn't been going high and wide. He's too nervous about what's behind him. So now if you play him as the right centre-back in a 3, you take away any pressure on him to be an offensive player. I think Konsa is a decent player, and I think he'll be protected well with Stones and Walker alongside him. And then it'll be interesting to see who plays as left wing back. Trippier has a little bit of a knock, but I think he has been training this week. But could Gareth Southgate be a little more brave because he has 3 centre-backs in? Could he play a Bukayo Saka there? Could he take a risk on, say, a Anthony Gordon there and just say to that player, bomb forward, you've got protection behind you, and then we can really have a go at the Swiss. The Swiss are excellent. They will make this a very difficult game. I've got a feeling, let me know what you think in the comments, but I have a feeling this game might end up going to penalties. And then it'll come down to, can we get the best players in our squad who are good at taking penalties on the pitch to do it? I'm thinking about Ivan Toney. Obviously, you need Harry Kane on the pitch still, but he's been struggling with kind of form and fitness, and he did have an injury at the back end of his Bayern Munich season. I think that's why Southgate's been taking him off towards the back end of games. But if it's going to be tight and it's going to be going to penalties, you need Kane on that pitch. Who, as any of you England fans, who would you want as your 5 penalty takers? Because if it's not the Switzerland game and we go forward, one of these games will end up going to penalties. So let me know which 5 penalty takers you would want. Like I said, I don't know. 4 games have gone in this tournament, and England have not played well for any sustained period of time, maybe other than maybe the first 15, 20 minutes of the first game. And I think we're going to need to put in a performance at some point if we're going to get through. However, what I will say on the flip side, and people forget this, Gareth Southgate has an unbelievable amount of tournament football experience for England, not just the England senior team, but he was the England under-21 manager before that, and he got them to at least a couple of finals. He didn't win those finals, but he has a lot of tournament experience, and he knows what it takes to get over the line in these tournaments game by game. And maybe that's why he is thinking about going back to a 3-5-2 when we've got the ball and a 5-3-2 when we haven't. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if it is going to be a 3-5-2, who plays in those attacking positions? Who are you playing in midfield? Let me know in the comments below, and I will endeavour, as ever, to answer all of your comments. I really appreciate them all, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Press like. Give me the likes and press subscribe. Like I said, trying to get to 10,000, and you can be a member if you like. Only £1 a month really helps me to make this daily content for you. All the details in the description box below. Really appreciate your support. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.